WIFTVPM.
What's in it for the black people? What's in it? What's in it for the black people? I'm in it. What's in it for the black people? What's in it? What's in it for the black people? I'm in it. For the black people. For the black people. For the black people. For the black people. For the black people, for the black people, for the black people, for the black people. What's in it for the black people? Let's hear it. What's in it for the black people? Don't fear it. What's in it for the black people? Let's hear it. What's in it for the black people? Don't fear it. For the black people, 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 for the black people. What's in it for the black people? You know it. What's in it for the black people? Let's show it. What's in it for the black people? You know it. What's in it for the black people? Let's show it. For the black people. 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 For the black people, 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 for the black people. Loving you has always been easy, because it's true. Yeah, yeah. I would not believe if someone would have told me you would come along to revive my soul. 'Cause I was done with love, my heart had grown cold. So cold. You had good energy, exactly what I needed. You walked in my life and placed the joy where was needed. Not a mirage, what I feel for you. Put that on God, girl, I'm loving you. Said it's easy. It's easy to love. Easy to love. Said it's easy. It's easy to love. Easy to love. Oh yeah.
All right, there we go. I hear some sound now. Hey, friends, happy Sunday.
Sunday.
Danny, get your mic.
Yeah. Just over here. Hey, y'all. Okay.
Excellent. So welcome, you guys. Welcome to Inhale, Exhale. Thank you for joining us on your Sunday afternoon. We're your health home girls. I'm Dr. Tanksley.
And I'm Danny Tan.
And we are back with you, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, every Sunday on What's in It for the Black People Media. So we're going to ask you right now to just like the show, share the show, like the page, join us on Inhale, Exhale, the group page on Facebook, where we would like to interact with you.
Yes.
Absolutely. So it's a beautiful Sunday.
It is. It feels amazing. It's been some good weather for the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative of that.
You know, it was kind of cloudy yesterday, but it was still really, nice and mild tempered. So it was good.
Yeah, it was relaxing. I stayed in and got some housework done. It was one of those days.
Ooh, I love that. That when you turn the music on and get everything cleaned up.
Relaxation going on.
Yeah. So speaking of relaxing, we're going to start as we always do, friends. We're going to take a couple deep breaths so that we can get ourselves centered for our show. And you know how we do it, right? In inhale, exhale style. We're just going to take a nice inhale through our nose and a nice exhale through our mouth. And let's do that one more time, friends, because I just want to. So let's breathe again. Excellent. Yes.
I feel good when you go deep, like when you get a deep look there.
Right. When I first learned some of the breathings, they used to say, breathe in and say soft and breathe out and say belly, right? Because you were doing this soft belly breathing where it would go in and out and you would feel the rise and the fall. And it's just so calming and so gentle. Yes. Speaking
of
which,
feel it in your belly.
In the
not
belly.
In the chest. Yes.
Speaking of bellies and soft and gentle, it was Mother's Day last week. We were off. Because we were doing our Mother's Day thing.
Yes, we're mothers.
Yes. How was your Mother's Day, Danny?
It was good. It was very relaxing and family time. And, I got the little one. So that was the first Mother's Day with my new baby boy. It was good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's been doing some fun stuff on all his social media.
Yeah. His little sister taught him how to spit. I mean, his big sister taught him how to spit bubbles. So.
Oh, my goodness. So that's fun, right?
Thing,
with the little rotor, boo, 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 that thing. So I had a good Mother's Day, too. I know we talked about we were doing our detox, and then
So listen, I was doing really, really good until Mother's Day.
Okay, but Mother's Day,
was my crack. And then
Mother's Day was your crack.
It was my crack, and then I'm gonna start over. Next week we gonna get back on track. But yeah, my mother cooked.
Yeah,
she cooked.
What your mom cooked?
She made a nice seafood boil, and I love seafood. And she put the good flavor into it. And
I wonder if everybody has seafood on Mother's Day. I had seafood too. I actually went to a seafood restaurant, and we'll talk about that. But it was really nice. Excuse me. And the food was outstanding. And I just heard these lobsters. They were like, Dr. Tanksley, I need to be saved. I was like, I got you. I have somewhere for you to be saved right here. And so, so I fell off too.
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to jump back on.
We're going to jump back
tomorrow. On. Look, Danny has her sea moss
ready
from Rashadat's Detox Cafe.
Sea moss.
Yes. And so we're going to start back tomorrow. And so, quick question for everybody, all my health nuts out there that use sea moss. Danny and I were talking, and we were looking at what else can you do with sea moss gel. So I found that latte recipe that changed my life. So I'm going to try that again because the first time was not too great, but I'm going to try it again. Smoothies.
Yeah, I put in my smoothie, but I haven't, figured it out for anything else.
Soups.
Yeah.
It can be a thickener in soups. And so I'm looking forward to doing some soups. Even though it's warm, so it's kind of hard sometimes to do a soup, but maybe I'll find some cold gazpacho soup or something like that. And then it said for your skin.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. I'm going to try that out. So I'm thinking too, maybe for my tea. Sorry guys, here I go. Hey y'all. I'm thinking too, maybe for the tea. Because I know on the detox, that was the challenge. So not having so many other foods, it was like, what do I put it in besides a smoothie, right? Because I'm not really eating soup and all the other stuff. So I was like, well, what do I put it in? So I'm thinking maybe my tea. I don't think I can just straight put it in the water because
And I'm not a texture person. I don't really care. I care what goes in my mouth, but I kind of don't. So I'm just gonna take it on a teaspoon. I think
I'm textured. Some slimy, just Yeah.
I'm just going and suck it right down. That's what I'm gonna do. So that's how I'm gonna take mine.
My mind just went, never mind.
And on that note, let's breathe again. No.
You said it, okay?
You guys, I'm so excited for today's show. Like, I really am, because laughter is one of my ways of being resilient. And we're talking about resilience today.
I love the
I'm a
conversation
jokester.
of resilience. Me
Yes,
too.
like I like to laugh.
You should be able to laugh. Yeah, I agree.
People always say they're like, oh, laughter's the best medicine. And they think that's cliche, but there's actually studies. Y'all know I like studies. There are studies that show that people who who laugh, take time out to release those hormones, like they're healthier, happier people.
Yeah, I could see that.
So yes, that's one of my resilience techniques. I watch comedies. I told you about that Black Lady sketch show.
Yes, I do have to. I still haven't watched it. I have to get in tune. Yes, because I know I'm going to love it.
Okay, these ladies are hilarious. And I just shout out to Issa Rae and her whole crew for putting that together, because it's an amazing show.
She's hilarious.
And it's
so I
only
can
30
only
minutes,
imagine.
so you can like super binge watch it, and you got to start from the first season because it was funny. So yes, go watch that
I'm
and
gonna
get some of
watch
that.
That
But
might be my Sunday night self-care.
yes, it is.
Get my laugh on.
Oh, it is hilarious. But speaking of resilience, I know Danny and I have said many times how we do not like to focus on COVID, because everybody in the world is focused on COVID. And so we try to bring you that good entertainment, education about other things other than COVID. But the CDC this week put out some pretty interesting recommendations and guidelines, and they have essentially said, this thing is almost over. And I'm like, okay, so is it almost over or is it not? I don't know, and we're not going to talk about that today. But we are going to talk about COVID, right? And so I think that as things start to open back up, and this was one of the places this kind of took my mind, was a few weeks ago, I went out with some of my family, and we went to an establishment that I'm not going to name, but it was so crowded in this establishment that I was so uncomfortable. I went and got a second mask, and I'm vaccinated, right? And I still went and got a second mask because I was like, I don't know. And my cousin and I were having a conversation, and this is someone, we're both huge extroverts, right? So it doesn't take us any time or any problem getting in the crowd and getting along. And he was saying to me, he's like, cousin, I feel a little awkward getting back into these settings, And so we had a conversation about it, and I was thinking, if we're feeling this way, how is everybody else feeling, right? And so as we talk about resilience and how you've gotten through this time of isolation and this time of hopefully reflection, that's one of the things we've been asking everybody to do during this time, is reflect and kind of look at the greater things and a purpose in life. But as we do that, I really wanted us to talk about some opportunities that are still available around COVID, right? And so speaking of that as well, I got to get on a soapbox for one quick second before I bring my guest on, because they all ready and they all looking good. So I'm so ready to bring them on. But so I had this moment, and Danny, maybe you'll fill me on this moment. But I had this moment where I said, okay, we're getting back into the swing of things, and COVID is becoming less and less of what people are talking about in the sense of the number of people that are being infected and those kind of things. And I said, well, as we do this and as we embark on this, how do we look at it from the standpoint of, never let a crisis go to waste, right? And how can we look at this? Because I think that medicine missed the mark, and that's my soapbox, is that in medicine, we missed the mark. We let this entire pandemic go by, and we talked a lot about pharmaceuticals, and we talked a lot about antibodies, and a lot about all these things, and we didn't empower people with self-sufficient um, um, techniques or things that they could do to help them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm rambling, but do you feel me?
No,
where I'm going?
I feel like, yeah, I do. I agree. And I feel like this is an appropriate conversation for where we are because we are coming into a space where things are opening back up. And you have that, like that unconscious anxiety that comes about in a big crowd, or now you're, going out to these different spaces. And regardless of your personality type, you can't help but over the last year and a half, you've been hearing COVID, 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 social distancing, protecting yourself. And you're now getting back into these spaces. And you're looking like, wait a minute.
Yeah, right. And I don't know. I mean, I don't like to call people liars,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that everybody's going to be super truthful about
That's true.
Because if I was in a space and nobody else had on a mask, like, I don't know how truthful, I don't know. I'm a pretty truthful person, but I just feel like that's putting a lot of pressure on people to be honest, and that's not always what we see.
Yeah, and like, how do you monitor that? Like, anybody who's been fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, but where's the measure in that? Like, how do you know?
I kid you not, the first thing that came to my head was like Nazi Germany and like Brandon folks, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a scary place we're going to, which brings up more anxiety, right? So I'm always talking about eat your vegetables.
Immune boost.
Right? We saw that people who did poorly with COVID, a lot of times they had BMIs greater than 30. So that meant that they were overweight or obese. So I talk a lot about exercise, try to be healthier, lose the unwanted pounds that you don't necessarily need. Make sure that you get enough rest, because when you're not well rested, then you're leaving your body and your immune system susceptible to infections. Make sure you're taking the vitamin supplements that make sense, right? Mm-hmm. So people with melanin in their skin, we need vitamin D. Yeah. And the vitamin D, I mean, everybody needs vitamin D, but it's a little bit harder for us to absorb it. And so that, the sun, when it's sunny, get outside and actually, you can wear your sunscreen or whatever, but definitely get outside and get some of those rays of sun. But then there's vitamin D supplements. And then, I'm a huge fan of mushrooms, and mushrooms have a good amount of vitamin D in them. And so all of those things are very important to continue doing. Mm-hmm. For your own health, whether it is, mask on or mask off. But resilience and meditation and moving your body and all those things are things that are super important too. So that's where this COVID conversation is going. Mm-hmm. Not about pharmaceuticals, although one of our guests is a pharmacist and a PharmD. So I'm going to switch over our guests actually now. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we're going to be joined by three beautiful individuals. We have Dr. Jewel Young with us, Azima Akram, and Selena, who I believe is our red clay dance promotion instructor, because she looks like she is already and danced out already. So it is definitely, she got some sweat going, she glistening over there. So this is going to be an outstanding conversation. But I want you guys, you should be unmuted. Let me make sure that I have you all to speak and say who you are, what you do. And then I don't know who's going to introduce the study, but we'll have that person go next too. So I will start with Dr. Jewel and then move to Azima and then Selena.
Welcome, ladies. Very beautiful names. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes,
so
we're excited.
The first thank you, but I have a huge thank you also for Dr. Tanksley, because there really wouldn't be a study if it wasn't for her cooperation. And it is a big collaboration between a dance company, Red Clay Dance Company, and a mindfulness session, a WEPO mindfulness session, and then sort of like what we would call a COVID surveillance project. And I'm the pharmacist who manages the COVID surveillance segment of the project. I'm a clinical pharmacist at UIC. My practice site is community health, where I primarily work with patients who are undocumented immigrants to the United States. I do most of my work there on Thursday and Friday in Spanish, and we talk about diabetes, smoking cessation, hypertension. Monday, Tuesday, I work from the pharmacy. I am, as my mom says, that lady that calls you to ask you why you didn't come pick that up. I am that lady that is calling you to find out why you didn't come pick that up.
Your refill is overdue.
That's me. That's because sometimes it's a real reason. So sometimes it's just I didn't get there, and sometimes it's made me break out all over. So sometimes it's really important to have a pharmacist engage that conversation.
Absolutely.
And then on Wednesday, I teach and I do projects in the community. I work with older adults. I work with young kids, mostly hands-on science and pharmacy things.
I love it. Shout out to STEAM careers. I love it. Yes. And did I hear you say, are you bilingual?
I am.
Girl, you a bad sister. Okay. That's a talent. That look, that moves you up on the pay scale a little bit. That's
Add
what's
a little
up.
notch to it.
Hey. Excellent. Okay, so let's have Mrs. Zima. You want to introduce yourself and who you are and what you do on this study?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for having me. So yes, my name is Azima Akram, and I am a regular participant of the Dance Pamoja Challenge program. So I've been attending the classes, and I'm also the secretary of the board of directors of Red Clay. So I have been, working in that role as well. But really my connection with Red Clay and the Dance Pamoja Challenge program, I am a lawyer during the day, but in my free time, I am a dancer. I do South Asian and Middle Eastern dance. And I just find that it's such a powerful way to connect with people and culture. And that's what brought me to Red Clay. And I find that in the program. And I know we'll talk more about that later. So I'm very excited to talk about my experience as well.
Excellent. And she a bad sister too, a lawyer that dance. Okay, come on.
That's what I like. Most folks do the thing.
All right. And finally, definitely not to be slighted at all, one of the most important people on this call, Miss Selena.
Hello. Yes, my name is Selena Lasley, and I am the teacher for Dance Pamoja. And I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Jua, Azima, everyone that's been on here for the show. I really appreciate, and I am so looking forward to just talking about my experience and talking about teaching and building this beautiful village of Pamoja up and letting it blossom. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. And you said you're the teacher. How long have you been teaching? And what styles, what genres do you teach?
So I started teaching Dance Pamoja, I would say since last year, starting in the fall time. I started because there was an instructor before me, and Red Clay, Sarah, and Rashawn asked me to start with teaching for Saturdays, and I said, why not? And the rest is history. I am well-rounded in multiple fields of dance. I've danced modern, West African, improvisation, contact improv, hip hop, all you can think of. I definitely do it. And I definitely coordinated and put that into the class of Pamoja because I really love to research. I love to research all types of dance, all types of art in general. I do multiple fields of art, but I really love the idea of having the community and coming together and bringing forth, that joy in that life every Saturday, even just for an hour. So much can happen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's awesome. When I think of improvisation, it makes me think about freestyle dance, like freestyling. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah.
So I had a freestyle the other night. Danielle is also in dance.
Yes.
And so she has some really amazing events where she blends dance and just sisterhood and mindfulness and all kind of things. So she had a twerk therapy session for Mother's Day.
Yes, I saw this on the Facebook page. I was like, this is where I get the degree.
Yes.
And this young
Twerk
lady taught me how to
therapy.
twerk. I can't do it standing up yet, but
She
I can
did
do it
so-
on
I
the
was-
ground.
Oh my God, I was so proud. I was so proud because she's always
Not.
like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." That music came on, and that energy was given what needed to be given, and I turned around,
And I was on the floor. That's all it was to be said. And it was, but you know, it was such a release of energy and just such a amazing. I mean, we felt so good after that session, and so that's why I want you guys to go ahead and tell us about the study and why you even chose to study resilience in a time like COVID where everybody's under stress.
yes.
Well, the study we began the same time as we started the class. So the primary objective was to build a resource that would be an online resource so people could keep dancing. It was in part for participants of the dance program who were involved, for their families, but also just for the community. As a dancer, Vershawn, as someone who takes dance classes, I'm not a dancer, someone who just takes dance classes. I know how much it meant to me, and I had a moment of panic, like, oh gosh, I'm not going to see anybody, and this is going to be rough. And if it's going to be rough for me, and I'm a pretty well-balanced person, some people are going to fall completely off. So we need to create a resource that's going to be readily available. And the dance community is a good place to start because if they get more engaged in dance, they'll be more active. That was at a time when everybody was saying hypertension was the number one cause. Everybody watch your blood pressure. Those things are always true. But at that time, it was thought that was integral to COVID. But I don't know if we ever thought that. I think we always thought that resilience would be the number one factor that would determine whether or not you survived the COVID pandemic, because resilience would carry you through even if you got sick, you know? And so there was a big part of us that thought it would be interesting to study blood pressure, but probably what we're going to see is that the people who consistently say, I am resilient, I am resilient, I'm resilient, those are going to be people who have the best outcomes. Well, we talked, and Audrey and I talked, and Vershawn and I talked, and we looked at a lot of studies, and we really thought, well, if we're going to build a resource to support resilience, we can't just study resilience and leave people to their own measures. We have to build in some structure because, first of all, therapy at that time, and I think this is probably a great outcome of the COVID pandemic, I think I see more brown people seeking therapy. Partly because telehealth is more available, partly because insurance was forced to open up telehealth opportunities. And then I think it's kind of like the one person without a mask, right? It's all of a sudden, a lot of people are going to therapy. A lot of people are talking about it. So all of a sudden, you know, there's more space for you to say, I think I would benefit from having somebody else to talk to too. So that's when we thought about the UWEPO mindfulness session and bringing in a regular session where people could do almost exactly as we started out today. Just take time to breathe together and be one together. And then we do some outreach with participants. For instance, we've gotten some high blood pressures. So we reach out to people. If they send us back results and the results are out of range, we reach back out to them because we also feared people are disconnected from the healthcare center. That's another factor in whether or not you're going to survive COVID. So if we want to increase odds, we want to bring care closer to participants. We have a program doctor. She's an excellent doctor, well known on the South Side, very, very much loved. So we always offer to have people talk to the program doctor. But fortunately, because it's a dance program, we actually have seen mostly controlled blood pressures. So we haven't really seen a lot of uncontrolled blood pressure.
That's a blessing.
It is.
And I want to say, I think that's just kind of taking it back a little bit. When you guys said, you know, you wanted to, well, on the topic of therapy, another huge point to that is not therapy always isn't verbal. So I you know, we can appreciate those dance outlets because sometimes, you know, you speak through movement or you speak through your arts or you speak through, you know, other avenues and outlets. So having that outlet is so important because people don't always know how to just come and say, this is what's going on or this is what I need to address, you know, and those things can come out through emotions in those therapeutic sessions and spaces. So I think that's really awesome that you guys are offering that space.
Thank you. I'm just going to co-sign that. I couldn't even have said that better. That's 100% true. So I actually have some results from the study to share with you, but I'll just kind of pass off to Azima and Selena because they can tell you. There's one element of the dance class that we never really were able to create. And that was this authentic, trusted representative in the classroom who would speak to health issues from the perspective of a dancer. And we were never able to create that. We were just so fortunate to find Selena because this is her nature and this is what she just does. So it's 100,000% natural, and it really has shaped into a class that's not just like I think it might be a little bit like the twerk therapy session, just a different soundtrack, because it's definitely more holistic than just second position, plie. I don't even know those things go together, but it's much more.
They are blowing this chat up talking about Dr. Twerkley.
Oh man,
I'm so sorry. And then they said if the video, if I didn't do it, if it's not documented, it didn't happen.
Oh, it happened. Don't make me go search because it happened.
It's on my Instagram page. Well, no, not the whole session, though, not my part. Okay. It did happen. I'm so sorry, ladies. I was just looking like, what are they talking about? Okay, so definitely let's get back to that because I think that's very organic, what you were just saying and what you were mentioning, the fact that, you know, in creating this environment, you have someone to naturally emerge as that person who can give that perspective. So I definitely want to hear it.
Yeah, the whole idea, you know, as Black and brown people, we want to create space. We want to hold space. And we want to hold space that is safe. We want to hold space that is protected. You want to hold space that is real. You know, you want to, and that in this world and in the society we're living in, I mean, that's something that is pretty scarce, and it's not always what it seems, you know, when you are trying to, you know, really step out of your comfort zone, because that's what it all is, especially in now the digital world. We're trying to connect with these bodies as well, and that's a whole nother element to it now, because now you're wanting to remain connected as a unit, as a village, as multiple bodies in this space, and then also, you know, connecting and feeling out, you know, putting even more energy as, you know, as a teacher, as in the instructor, to really pass that energy to the participants, you know. And that's definitely was a whole journey, and it's still an ongoing journey that has beautifully developed. And I'm really happy that everything has been evolving as beautifully as it is.
I could imagine that some, you know, coming into this space, you might have some individuals who have very low energy, right? Maybe they're depressed, maybe they've lost someone, maybe, you know, they've had COVID themselves. How do you use the study or use, you know, the energy that you're exuding through your dance, because it's virtual, right? And so you're doing this on a like a Zoom type of setting, right? So how do you engage those individuals in the study?
As the teacher, I always check in with everyone. I continuously check in with everyone, even sometimes when I'm just going off on tangents. I'm just like, hey, just making sure, are we here? How are we mind and body wise? Because the mind can be totally, completely somewhere, and your body can be totally, completely somewhere else, you know? So we want to be honest with that. Is there any, you know, and just in terms of, oh, and am I not here? Am I 50%? Just being honest with that, you know, but also coming in as yourself, even bringing in the self that you necessarily wouldn't want to bring in the classroom. Bring it, because that's being you. Absolutely. And we're holding the space. We're holding the space for everyone, no matter where you're coming from, no matter how you are, and you know, continuously bringing that up, continuously, you know, setting that as the mantra it unfolds in people, and it unfolds and it brings, more strength, and it brings more like, oh wow, like I can come up and I'm just like, okay, I rolled out of bed and I'm here. Hi, and but you're here, and then at the end of the class, you're just like, wow, I have regained and I have regenerated myself, which is, is gold.
That is gold.
Can you guys tell us a little bit more about the program itself? Like, how do you find out about it? How do you sign up? And is it like a structured program, like so many weeks, this is what happens? Is it, topics, themes? Like, what is the structure of the program?
So the program is, I don't know, Jules, you want to talk about more about?
I guess well, you would access the program just by going to redclaydance.com/promoja. That's the landing page, and that will tell you about everything that's involved with it. Okay. And when you enroll in the class, you can sign up for the blood pressure study, but you don't have to. So the blood pressure study is a study of blood pressure and resilience. We just call it the blood pressure study, but it's more than that. And if you do, you will get one of these beautiful Omron blood pressure machines that my home is full of. I'm really trying to get these out to the community. So please join the study, but you don't have to. But just join the dance class. It's drop-in. So although some people like Azima and myself come regularly, it's completely drop-in. So you don't have to feel obligated that if you missed last week, you won't be able to catch up. And even though it's a dance class with some like real dancers in it, there are also some people who just like to dance. That would be a person like me. So you a dance step together as a group. And I know that's intimidating because people want to be, in the Black and brown community, dance is important. So you don't want to be one that's like, wait. But I am that person. So to me, it's enjoyable even if I'm not really 100% with the group. I don't feel like I'm representing it for everyone. I'm really like, this is a place for a dancer like me. But Selena has kind of shifted into her own class. So she's doing an international thing every week. We learn about a new country in East Africa, a new dance. So she's taking it to a new place. And the class will continue after the study. So Selena, maybe you can talk more about what intention is. I know you are creating the mindfulness opportunity.
Yes. So we, the co-facilitator, Nia Odom, who's also an administrator and coordinates with the actual class, we sat down together and we're like, okay, so we want to make this new session of Promoja. Like, what can we do? What can we advance it? What can we bring in more? Authenticity, but also bringing in the reins and the foundations that Red Clay brings, which is the Black diaspora, and also remnants, what is the similarities and the molding of the African diaspora as well, and bringing that into it. So I was like, well, we just need to just go and visit and actually research and study and jump into these cultures, jump into these traditions, and also find the similarities, because it's happening every day as we're doing it, doing it every day. We're living in and breathing in our society, in our cultures. So I stepped out of my comfort zone, because these are, I'm also studying and I'm also learning all of these styles and new styles that I haven't worked with in a while. And it's been a blast. Every week is different, but every week is a continuation. Last month, which was April, we were doing Afro-Caribbean. So we were going through all Afro-Caribbean. We were going to Trinidad. We're going to Jamaica. We're going to, Tobago, and we're going to all of these places. And we're like, okay, so how do we connect this? Because we see all of these dances. We see, dance hall all the time, but like, what are we actually doing? How are we actually connecting with it, And what are we actually listening to, and how, all the music is, it's all connected. It all comes, comes from there. So it's like, all right, so what are we hearing? How does it connect within our bodies? So
Danny can hear the drums already. She's like dancing in her seat. She's like,
in my mind, I'm a Rasta girl.
Yes, exactly. Like, so we just wanted everybody to reintroduce all of these topics that we've seen, we heard about it, but reintroducing it into our bodies and empowering ourselves as a social, economic spectrum, and empowering the way that we can liberate ourselves through resilience, right? Through the dancing, through movement, through foundation, through grounding ourselves. Actually, what does it mean to literally bend down? How are we connecting? Literally bending down, connecting to the earth. How does that, like breaking it all the way down, and really, feeling that within that self, because then it's reflective off of what you're thinking. We're processing and letting it flow throughout the class. And then once the end, I usually do a really brief prompt of like a meditative mindful practice. And it's a lot of in terms of like empowerment. Okay, how do we find radical hope? How do we stabilize, foundation? How do we find radical imagination? How do we find resilience in breath, in movement, in stillness? So just taking moments like that and just finding the correlation and the flow of it, it's
sounds healing in itself.
yeah, it is healing.
Because I was going to ask, how do you correlate that to the pandemic, to the COVID, like what's going on now? What's the connection with the two? Is this to help people find their resilience through what's going on, or helping them, feel more comfortable with coming out into other spaces? Like, what's the connection?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because it's really a good segue to some of the study results. Mm-hmm. Our initial idea was really just, it was, as Selena said, sort of like a safe, protective space, mm-hmm. a place where people could be in the company of, I guess the idea is that after dancing together, there would be a relationship built that would make people comfortable just to talk about where they are. Mm-hmm. But the parallel portion, the study, does not actually require people to attend the class. So we mm-hmm. encourage people to attend the class. But there are people who've responded to the study who've actually never attended the class. Mm-hmm. And what we're finding in the study is that there's a different corollary to resilience. And actually, the study findings, we had about, over the course of the program, we've collected about 12 participants. Mm-hmm. And we have about 5 years now of results. And the biggest correlation, or the biggest, I guess, upsetting finding, is most people are saying that they feel least confident about their role in their family and their ability to set limits for themselves. So we asked them kind of to rate about 10 items. And the items are things like, I am open to new ideas. I provide support for others. I have great friends that I can trust. And they go through with a slider and kind of say where they are. And then the check question. And the check question is, how resilient are you in the COVID pandemic? And we try to compare those slides to what people say in terms of overall resilience. Mm-hmm. But one of the biggest things we notice right away is that people are definitely feeling like their role in their family is lost. It's a dramatically different number. And the other one is setting limits for themselves. People feel like they're really having difficulty setting limits for themselves. And so when I think about something like a dance challenge or a community class, I can see how to some degree the limits portion can be addressed by that. Because, a lot of people are talking about how much weight they gained during the pandemic, and just the practice of, I like classes, they hold me accountable. The practice of seeing everybody, they're looking for you on Saturday, you showed up, you didn't. I think that's there, but I don't know how we reconnect people to their family until we physically reconnect them to their family. Mm-hmm. Because Zoom is here, Facebook is here, Facebook Live is here, Twitter is here. I mean, I've connected to Teddy Riley through the pandemic, but what I have not done is hugged my cousin. And that is something that we can't simulate.
That is a really interesting finding, especially when you think about, it'd be interesting to see how, if you ask them about their family, if they're referring to more immediate family versus those that are further out, because you can think, yes, I haven't been able to travel, I haven't been able to see those individuals in those spaces, but it would be even more shocking to hear that if people were referring to people that are within,
Yeah.
you know, within touch or within limits. I definitely think the pandemic had us had us think about a lot of things, and family dynamics was definitely one of those. That was one of the reasons that Danny and I said, okay, we're going to go ahead and start the show, right? Because we really wanted to empower the family again, especially in Black and brown communities, because we had saw a lot of that connection being taken away or being stretched, right? Really stretched in this time. So I'd be really interested to hear your perspective, Miss Azima.
Absolutely. There's a lot to say, so I guess I'll touch on a couple of things that we've already mentioned. Well, as Selena was saying, I really do feel that every time I attend a class, I feel safe. I feel, and there's something about that attending virtually that is different than being in person, where you don't feel as judged, or you're not really looking at other people. It helps you, in some way, it helps you really connect with yourself in a way that I had not expected. With work, I'm always Zoom fatigue, but there's something about the dance class that has really allowed me to stay connected with the community and people who just want to move their bodies and find a way to transition from the week, which is fraught with a lot of uncertainty during these times. I didn't know, am I going to be in the office or not? There's people losing their jobs and having financial difficulties and a lot of things that have impacted people individually and through their families. And so to have a steady time where I know I'm going to have a safe space to start my weekend, Saturday at 10 a.m. It's on my calendar every week, whether I can make it or not. Like, it is there, for me to be able to take care of myself so that I can continue to, move forward in this uncertain time, and going back to resilience, of course. And then in that hour, it really forces you to be present. And, Selena has talked about some of the ways that she checks in with everyone. She really has this uncanny ability to just meet you where you are, even without being in person, She just really is in tune with all of the participants. And so it has really allowed me to have that it's like a gift to myself, an hour where I can be present, where I can take things at my own pace. Even though I'm a dancer, I don't study, for example, Afro-Caribbean dance, which Selena had highlighted last month. So I'm learning something new, just like most of the people in the class, and that forces you to be present. And when you do that, it calms your whole system, because you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're just focusing on what your body can do right now. And so that's why I think of it as a gift. And the time flies by so quickly every week. So I highly encourage people to join while the program is going. So those are some of the things I think that touch on aspects of the study and the things that are of interest, I think, to the community in keeping your resiliency strong during this period.
And for the community, what would you say that they can take from this class? What can you take from the class and apply to your everyday life? We're the community. This is your pitch right now. What can we take from this class and apply to our lives?
I'll certainly turn it over to the others in a moment. For me, what it's given me is a sense of community, a safe place to come to every week without being judged for taking time for myself. And I think that's what we all need. Wherever we are in our lives, we need to take time for ourselves, pre-pandemic, but especially now, in order to be able to keep going. So I think the community, you should consider attending these classes as a way to build that resiliency and to also have fun, get your heart rate up. Your body, with a lot of people sitting down, sedentary, work from home lifestyles, like the one that I'm going through right now. I think a lot of people are, experiencing that, and you're moving your body, and you have to do that in order to be healthy. So, so I would say both physically and mentally, the classes are very important in order to be able to keep going. So I'll turn it over to Selena.
No, absolutely, Azima. I mean, yes, I think showing up is you being resilient. That is you embodying resilience, period. You showing up no matter what, no matter if or whatever thoughts or minds are coming to you, and still being as you are is powerful, and it takes a lot of guts to show up any place. That's a big thing. Everybody's like, do this, do that, but are you actually going to show up? And finding that strength, finding that peace within yourself, and finding that balance, it's all part of the process. But I'm heavily adamant about understanding our own empowerment and our own righteous way of self-love and self-care, because you have to care for yourself to be able to care for others. How are we going to be able to how are we ever going to be able to connect to anybody if we're not able to connect with ourselves and sit with ourselves, and even the self that we don't really necessarily like, or maybe afraid to see? No, we have to embody, we have to literally encompass and hold on to each and every aspect of ourselves, because then that's when we're able to step in fully, as ourselves, no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you're either at 100 or a 50 or a 0 or a negative, you're you. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. Absolutely. I like that. How about you, Dr. Young?
I think for me, the most important thing is that people take away the importance of play. And this is 1 hour of just, and it's
Absolutely.
like a playground. You come, it's a drop-in class, you're going to meet friends, and you're going to have friends for an hour. You come next week, you'll have the same friends. You don't come back, we'll miss you and we'll think about you. But all of these, I just loved what Azima said. It touched my heart about how the week is so fraught with worry. So, and I think as adults, we just keep zooming in that mode. Maybe we stop going to the club. Maybe we can't go to the club anymore because we can't be out till 4 o'clock in the morning like we used to. But maybe we could be up at 10 o'clock on Saturday with the family playing and dancing.
Yes. I love that. I think there was some really amazing things you guys said that can be taken away from this. Definitely that this is a gift to yourself. That spoke to my soul.
Self-care.
Yes, because so often, we don't set those priorities. I know I try, but then I'm often giving away so much that it's not being replenished at the level that I give it away. And so having a space where you can re-energize and regenerate it just sounds super amazing. So I definitely want to make sure that we put the information in the in the Inhale Exhale group page. So everybody, make sure you tag a friend and do it. And I'm gonna say one thing you can take away from it is a blood pressure cuff.
Yes.
Which if you don't need, maybe someone in your family does, and that's a nice. I think that's a nice token that you guys are giving, just for individuals, because a lot of people don't realize that, or maybe they do, but a lot of times when people come into the clinic, there's already a level of anxiety about being in a health center. And so I see so many blood pressures that are mildly, slightly elevated, and thank you, mildly, slightly elevated because of just the anxiety of being in the health center, and we call that white coat hypertension, but it ultimately is on the spectrum of anxiety, right? And so I think that so I do a lot of breathing with patients and recheck their blood pressures. But what I think is most beneficial to them, and I tell them, is check your blood pressure when you're not in the clinic, when you're at home and you're feeling good and you're in your environment and you have no level of stress about what is the doctor going to say when they come in. and keep that, because the studies show if you have 12 ambulatory, meaning taking those blood pressures at home outside of the health center setting, we can average those, and that's a much better reading or, kind of guideline for us to use. And so, get your blood pressure cuff. We got somebody in the chat already who is like, I need a blood pressure cuff. I don't know how to dance, but I need a blood pressure cuff. So I'm going to make sure that that they get the link and they can, move side to side, as they used to say, right? Look,
It's all about just feeling good and being free.
And moving
That's
your
it.
body.
That's really it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we are coming on, honestly, somebody mentioned the time flies. I think it was Azima, and that's actually what happens to us every Sunday, is that our time flies and we end up down to like the last 40 seconds, and I'm like trying to hurry up and get it in. So I want you guys to give us, we may go over just a minute or two, but not two. A minute. So give us your final close, and I'm going to let Dr. Young go last. So let's go Azima, Selena, and then Dr. Young, your final closing statements for today.
Yeah, so I just, again, want to thank you guys for having us, and I encourage everyone to check out the program at redclaydance.com/Pamoja every Saturday, 10 a.m. It's free. Give yourself a gift before you start your weekend.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What you got for us, Selena? I love your energy, girl.
Oh, it's a reflection of yours. That's what that is. Thank you so much. No, thank you all. Like, honestly, it's such a pleasure. I'm so honored. This is so important. I'm so blessed that you all created this show for everyone to really just be on here and get the info, because we need it. So thank you. Please join the classes. They're full of joy and love.
Awesome. And Dr. Young, that beautiful smile.
Yes.
Well, I just have to kind of bridge off what Selena said and thank you all. Not only thank you for having us, but thank you for creating this space. From the moment we saw your backgrounds to this very moment, this has been one of the most wonderful and enjoyable ways to spend a Sunday afternoon. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to listening to you all engage a lot of people on this program and bring way more health and wellness.
Yes. Danny, what you got for us?
That was beautiful. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining. And listen, we're sisters in love and in heart, because dance is y'all speaking my language, so I know what it is. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your message. We appreciate you.
Yes, and I want to thank everybody again. Thank you to all of those who were able to join us today. Make sure you share this video with a friend. Make sure you share the post that we're going to put so that we can get more people getting more resilient. And on that, I'm going to have us to inhale this week. We're going to inhale some dance. Mm-hmm. We're going to exhale some resilience. How about that? There you go. On that note, ladies, everybody have a wonderful week, and we will see you next Sunday on Inhale, Exhale on What's in It for the Black People Media. Good night.
Good night, ladies.